I feel like I won the lottery. Every day I get to go hang out with my friends, dressed up either like a superhero or in a ninja outfit, wearing a gi, doing what I used to pay to let other people let me do. So it's just, if you're a professional martial arts instructor, you have the dream job. You won the lottery.
Hello, this is James Cox with the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, and I have an old friend of mine, friend of mine, Ty Garrett from Amarillo, Texas, and runs a very successful martial arts schools, Extreme Martial Arts. Man, this guy is competing all over the world, and at a young 40 years old, still competing at high levels. But I really admire and acknowledge the things that you've done through the years, Mr. Ty. So thanks for coming on today in episode 61 of this little podcast. And why don't you talk a little bit about your journey and kind of what you have?
Awesome. My name's Ty. I started martial arts when I was 7, and it was a real traditional Taekwondo program. It was 1989 or 1990. Ninja Turtles were huge. Karate Kid just changed the industry, bringing children into martial arts facilities. And that's what I started with, was TKD, and then started doing sport karate. I grew up watching guys like you just dominate the karate circuits. You were maybe half a generation above me. So when I was young, you were winning the black belt division. You and Darren Walters just kind of dominated all the tournaments I went to in Texas. And in college, I started branching out into Krav Maga, Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, really fell in love with those because of how practical they were. And actually, right when I turned 18, I don't know if you know this, you were one of my very first losses. I went 34-0 as a 15, 16, 17-year-old. Man, my ego was huge. I won a junior world title, a national title in the kids division, and I thought I was awesome. The day I turned 18, I lost my next 3 matches. One of them was you, and one of them was Darren Walters. That's like two really rough pulls.
Like I don't necessarily remember that. That's awesome, though. Yeah.
No, it was a John Lyle's tournament.
Okay.
I fought you. I can't remember where I fought. I think it was the same tournament. But 34-0 as a teenager, and then 0-3 as an 18-year-old. Man, that was some humble pie.
Welcome to the adult division.
That's how it was when I turned 18, and it was like Daddy-O. Man, I watched him for years. It was the scariest man on the planet, right? Good times. Yeah, man, we had a lot of fun in those old karate tournaments in Texas. Texas karate, Texas point fighting was no joke.
No, it prepared me for wherever I went. I had harder tournaments in Lubbock, fighting guys like you and Darren Walters. Then I'd go to nationals, and the guys were fast, but they weren't tough. It was like point karate in Texas back in those days was almost kickboxing with breaks.
Yeah.
Like it made the transition to kickboxing really easy. And then in college, Darren, one of the guys who beat me, Darren Walters, who's a phenomenal kickboxer karate guy, he kind of took me under his wing. I got a black belt underneath him. He taught me kickboxing. He taught me a lot about strategy. I used to want to win with honor. I was like, I don't want to get a point like that. He goes, it's a point, Ty. We're in a basketball match. It doesn't matter if you do a 360 dunk or a layup. It's 2 points.
Yeah.
And I used to look at fighting like, no, I want the epic head kick, or I want to land the Superman punch. And he's the one that really taught me, this is just a game. And the way we keep score is by the points. So a jab is just as good as a tornado kick, as long as it connects. So he really changed the whole strategic side of it for me. And he made me fall in love with kickboxing. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. And when I first opened, my first school failed, and I was trying to do the traditional, my goal was to make it like a university. So my first school, you could get a black belt in Taekwondo, you could get a black belt in Shotokan, you could train Krav Maga, you could train Jiu-Jitsu, and then you could do kickboxing. So it was like, you go to college, maybe you get a marketing degree, but I get a degree in engineering, but we go to the same college. That was kind of my idea with my first school. So I had, I think, 7 different styles altogether you could train in. And it was just too much. And that school went bankrupt. So when I opened my second school, Extreme Martial Arts, I was like, I'm just going to focus on the 2 parts I'm really good at, that I really enjoy. And for me, it was kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. And when I just started focusing on the ones I was really enjoying, I don't know if I was better at them, but I enjoyed them more. I think it came out on the mat, and my second school just loads more success than my original school. And a lot of that was I learned from my failures. I learned from my mistakes. But the big thing I did on my second location was, now I'm 23 at this point. I'm living in my mom's basement, which is not exciting. Putting everything I can into the dojo game again. What I did different the second time around is I got a bunch of coaches. I got business coaches, marketing coaches, coaches on how to teach better. And I started approaching my business kind of the way I would a fight. I know you have a fight team. Would you ever tell one of your friends who's getting ready for a fight, oh yeah, just get some tips off YouTube and train in your garage?
Right.
That's what I was doing with my business. I was trying to figure it out with a book or two, a magazine. I was trying to figure out my business with no coaching, no training, and no advice. So once I started dumping time, energy, money, resources into my education, lo and behold, my business took off. Biggest thing I wish I could tell myself, my younger self, was get a coach, whether it's marketing, business, how to be a better teacher. Get a coach, and when all else fails, do what your coach said the first time, and you'll be shocked how much better everything goes.
You're right, man. Yeah, so it's kind of like a lot of people, it's like as if you were trying to reinvent the wheel instead of trusting the systems and processes that have been proven.
Man, I'm so grateful. She was my fiance at the time, but she's my wife now. After my first school failed, my parents were really encouraging me to become an engineer. That's what my father did. And I had the education for it. And he even had the job. He had me the interview lined up. It was one of those, it's not just what you know, it's who you know. I could have got hired like that. And I remember I was in my mom's backyard. It was a few months before we opened the current gym, and me and my fiance were engaged. And she really encouraged me. She goes, you got to try one more time. You're going to regret this and hate the rest of your life if you don't at least try to follow your dream one more time. So in my moment of weakness, she gave me that kick in the rear I needed. She was the coach I needed at that moment. And we went all in. We put our very, very tiny life savings back into a new gym and tried it again. And I'm eternally grateful. I have no idea how my life would have turned out without martial arts. I'm sure I would have kept training, but I feel like I won the lottery. Every day I get to go hang out with my friends, dressed up either like a superhero or in a ninja outfit, wearing a gi, doing what I used to pay to let other people let me do. So it's just, if you're a professional martial arts instructor, you have the dream job. You won the lottery.
That's true, man. Yeah. What you're able to do for others. And yeah, I mean, would you have been happy as an engineer? Who knows, right? But so I talk a lot about benefit driven and the things we do in the martial arts, and I've had some great interviews with some great people. But what are the things that you've seen, transpire and develop through your students? I could say that the lives you've empowered and the changes, and we can't win them all, but what are some of those testimonies?
Well, self-defense is an easy one that comes to mind. I had a few people, life-changing situations, they were able to defend themselves. And of course, we're teaching self-defense, so that's easy. But the ones that I really like are like the smaller victories. When you get a little kid who won't make eye contact, and now he can do a public presentation.
Wow.
And, that might not seem as important as a life or death fist fight, of course. However, man, you gave that kid one of the best gifts you can give a kid. You gave him confidence, but you didn't give it to him. You showed him how he could earn it. And there's a big difference. So many kiddos, they get participation trophies or everyone's first place. They might have confidence, but they don't have the skills to back it up. And then that can easily be taken away. False confidence is easily lost. But true confidence, that's earned. And it's just those little bitty steps. Like when we enroll kiddos now, it's so much different than even 15 years ago. A lot of the kids we sign up now cannot do a single push-up correctly, which once again, that doesn't sound like a big deal. On our black belt test, you have to do 160 push-ups in 4 minutes. So, I mean, that's 40 a minute back to back for 4 minutes. That's tough. And we have kids that can't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 push-ups on day one that are doing 5 push-ups on their white belt test, 10 on their yellow belt. And we just slow baby incremental goals. 5 years later, it's so impressive to see the transformation. And it's really neat because when you teach them every day, like at my school, I don't even see my own students' progress as well because I see them every day. Or when I go to like Master Dorsey's school, I get to teach seminars there like once or twice a year. I see his students 2 times a year. I see snapshots. I can see the progress so much easier because I don't see them every day.
Right.
Or when I go to my buddy Garrett Poole into school in New Braunfels, I get to see his students about 3 or 4 times a year. It's a little bit easier to see the progress because once again, I'm not seeing them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I see them January, March, June. It's so much easier to see these huge transformations. I think sometimes as instructors, we're so in the weeds. We're so busy with the day-to-day. We're not taking the time to celebrate our students' little victories. And those little victories over enough time are life-changing.
It's consistency, persistency, inch by inch, right? The little things that add up. I mean, I love when I see one of my students, maybe they don't know that I see them, when they open the door for someone, right? When they walk by and pick up some trash off the floor, no one even saw them do it and put it in the trash can. I mean, is that martial arts? Is that combat military fighting? No, man, but it's building them from the inside out, and those things can last a lifetime.
I love it. It's so easy when you meet a martial artist, even if, we're not dressed up, we're not kicking and punching, you can almost tell by the way they treat people if they've been trained right. Like, they're looking them right in the eye. Yes, sir. No, sir. But that kid's either a martial artist or a military kid. One of the two. And we just stick out in a good way. And I think it's a fantastic thing. I think it's one thing I don't like about the industry right now. I love how we're kind of shifting to more realistic training. Jiu-jitsu and kickboxing's never been bigger. Being how I love those two, I'm a big fan of that. But one problem I see with the industry, there's so many good things with the traditional martial arts. Maybe it's not the techniques, maybe it's not the training methodology, but the character development, the respect, the courtesy, the goal setting. There's so many fantastic things with the traditional mindset that I think are getting lost with a lot of the modern day MMA gym owners, which I think there's kind of a way you can get the best of both worlds. I really like the old school values, the old school respect with the modern day techniques. And at least for us, that's kind of the sweet spot. We have a bunch of MMA competitors and we have a bunch of old school karate competitors, but we have one of the bigger gyms in town. And I think we've kind of found that sweet spot of modern day realistic, old school professionalism and goal setting. And I think that's one of the things that's getting kind of lost in martial arts nowadays. Every student was screaming, yes, sir, no, sir. We just acted different.
Yeah, because I think they've taken away some good principles. The bow, people bowing on and off the mat, taking the time to bow in and out before and after class, even a uniform. It doesn't have to be a traditional karate gi, but how's your rash guard and shorts look, or are they uniform even? We always recited creeds, terminology, definitions, things that you can anchor in. The instructor says this, the students reply that. To me, that gives that, if you want to say militant, or just those systems that we know work because they work traditionally, but things do change. Cars modified, right? Good thing, we're not always making our own food, but we can do things a little better. Maybe some things that were marketed, or the Ultimate Fighter shows when they first came out. We don't really want a martial arts school like that with a bunch of MMA fighters that are dramatic, like as if they're thugs and they want to party and street fight and not just be good humans, right? So balance and mixture, definitely. We can take some of the old and add to the new, right? And form a modern concept. So your school's going good, doing some consulting. You guys are doing some other organization things, helping other schools, making big changes, I see, right?
Yes, sir.
Some things that you got going on.
I guess you would say in the coaching world and consulting and just with things there.
My instructor only had one student, and it was me. His name was Mark Sturkey. I was teaching his boy at a Taekwondo school when I was young. And Mark, I just call him Coach, he asked me if I'd start coaching his son a little bit on the side. And usually when you hear parents coach, they give terrible advice. It's meaning well, but they'll just be like, get in there, Billy.
Yeah.
They don't know what to say. And Mr. Sturkey would always say stuff, slip the jab, throw the overhand. And I'd kind of look, way better advice than I usually hear from the parents section. Or, he's setting up the side kick. Watch out, elbows down. That's really good advice.
He knows something.
Yeah. So I went and talked to him, and lo and behold, the guy's so humble. The guy who wanted me to be his coach's son was a Troy Dorsey black belt. So my Taekwondo teacher was a little bit older. He was kind of out of the competition scene. So I taught there, but he wasn't at the right stage in his life to have a young pupil underneath him. They wanted to train kind of like a Rocky. So anyways, Mr. Sturkey took me under his wing, and I became his only student. We would train out of his garage. We would train out of the dojo I worked at. And this was at age 14, 15. He started training me, and he kept telling me at some point I need to go train with Troy. At some point I need to go train with Troy. Years later, I've done all my belt tests since fourth degree. I did my fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh degree black belt under Troy Dorsey. And he's a 8-time world champion. I think 6 in kickboxing, 1 in point karate, and 2, I did the math wrong, 5 in kickboxing, 2 in boxing, and 1 in point karate. So 8-time world champion. So I started training with Mr. Dorsey, and man, that guy has forgot more about striking than I'll ever learn. Yeah. We'll be training together, and he'll like, oh, let me show you something I learned here. The other day, just nonchalant, he was telling me about the time he got to hang out on a 3-city tour with George Foreman. And I was just like, dude, if anybody else told me that, I would think it was a fake story, but I know he's telling the truth. So I've been training with Mr. Dorsey for about 17 years now. And every now and then I would tell him, you need an organization, sir. I'm in the Carlos Machado organization, which is one of the best jiu-jitsu organizations. A couple times a year, Carlos will bring in all of his black belts from all over the country. We'll rent out a big giant hotel, and we'll have like 200 black belts on the mat. It is so cool. But when I started, it was like 12 guys, then it was 20 guys. And I got to watch it kind of blossom. And I was telling Mr. Dorsey, he needed the kickboxing equivalent of this. Because, he's just as famous in the striking realm as Master Carlos is in jiu-jitsu. And one day, Mr. Dorsey called me. He goes, Ty, I think we're going to do that kickboxing organization you started. You were talking about. I was like, great, I'll be your first client, sir. He goes, no, you're going to help me run it. He goes, and I was like, I have no idea. He goes, you have the most successful dojo out of all my black belts. I like your curriculum, and we're going to use your curriculum and your business model, and me and you are going to build the Troy Dorsey kickboxing organization. I was like, sir, I'm flattered, but running a dojo is different than running an organization. I have no online skills. I don't know how. I'm not that organized. He goes, I think we should still do it. So then I brought in my one of my black belts, who is very organized, very detail oriented, and an internet whiz, Garrett Poole. So Garrett, myself, and Troy Dorsey run the Troy Dorsey Kickboxing organization, and we actually started it during COVID, which is probably like the worst time to start a new business, but that's what we did. And we have about 18 schools underneath us now. We've had a few schools more than double their enrollments, and it's neat because I've been a part of so many different consulting groups along the way. And I always felt like I had to go one place for my martial arts, one place for my business. So our goal when we were building the Troy Dorsey Kickboxing org, we're going to kind of try to marry the two. Because if what's happening on the mat lines up with what's happening on the office, it's just so much easier. If you have magic on the mat and the office isn't so great, you can limp by. But if the mat's struggling, if classes aren't bumping, it doesn't matter how good your sales and marketing are. It's going to be a rat wheel race where 1 month you'll do great because you get 40 enrollments. Next month you're struggling. So we really wanted to marry martial arts with good business practices. So we opened the TDKO about 2 years ago, and it is so much fun because about every 90 days we have a meeting, and as many coaches that want to come in, and I get to see all my old friends that I used to do karate with and kickboxing with. It's kind of like high school reunion, except I like all these people and I want to see them. And then we'll do a 2-day training camp where, I'll take several of Mr. Dorsey's classes. I'll teach a class on how to teach kids. Garrett will teach a class on online marketing. I'll teach a class on what to do with your finances, tax-wise, or where you should be putting money in retirement. And between the three of us, we have just a lot of expertise that we share. And then now that the organization's been growing, we've been bringing in adjunct professors, where we had one of my friends, Steve Jackson, runs a super successful school in Fort Worth. He gave a special presentation on how to do special events. And I'll be honest, I kind of thought I knew how to do special events. So I took his presentation and I realized, dude, I'm a yellow belt in special events. This guy, he is awesome. Every 2 or 3 weeks, he has a special event in his dojo. 1 week will be beach day. And he will literally dress up like a beach bum and teach in a folding chair, which sounds kind of silly because the students get into it. Some of the kids will wear floaties. Afterwards, we'll go behind the dojo and we'll grill hot dogs and burgers. It's just a great way for the team to build. And he had about 52 of these different ideas he does throughout the year. And he only enrolls like 10 to 15 students a month, which is kind of low in my opinion, but he has, I think, 383 students. So he's signing them. Yeah, he's got black belt retention. And it's insane how good his numbers are. And it's all the little things he's doing. So I've learned just as much from having my affiliates and teammates give presentations as I had when I used to pay to be in a group. So
it's good, man.
It's so cool.
Well, that's awesome that you're self-aware enough, and even though you've been doing this and you have the success that, your strengths and your weaknesses, just like fighting. And the kickboxing organization, kickboxing is a pretty simple curriculum. I think that's a good thing for you guys because there can be very complex arts. Jiu-jitsu is complex. Kajukembo is complex.
But kickboxing
can be pretty simple. We just disguise repetition, I see the point too in those events, man. That's awesome to have that good of retention. You do some cool stuff with your curriculum. You told me you were a little nerdy, but you use some superhero things and names of it, right? So what's happening there with your curriculum or some changes you've made?
I should have put on a different rash guard. We do a bunch of our rash guards even look like superheroes. They'll be very Superman inspired or Batman or Captain America inspired, which one the kids love. I was shocked how much more stuff we started selling out of our pro shop when I went from traditional to, I'm just going to embrace being a nerd. This next uniform is going to look like a stormtrooper uniform. This next one's going to look like a Star Trek outfit. This next one's going to look like Captain America and in-game. We'll just replace logos and change things enough. Once I started really being more true to myself, and I'm a nerd, enrollment got better, pro shop sales got better. So in our combos, I think you already touched on it. One of the keys, especially with kids, is just mindless reps. You have to 10,000 reps to be good at something, 100,000 to master it. Go tell a kid to do a side kick 10,000 times. He's going to hate class. So we're always trying to disguise it. So one of the things, we simply renamed some of the combos superhero names. So everybody does jab, reload, hook. You establish a jab cross hook, then you light them and you don't throw the cross. So that's a super common combo. When we teach it to our kids, that one's called Captain America. So I throw my jab, now I hit you with my shield, then I throw the hook. It's the same combo, but little things like that, they're like, oh, I can't wait till we do Captain America on the mitts again. Rebranding the same old things. And then the cool things, when we go to tournaments, I'll yell, 1-1, Captain America. And the other team be like, what the heck's a Captain America punch? I have no idea. I might as well be speaking Latin, so it allows us to speak in code. And then since the entire TDKO, the Trodorsi Kickboxing Organization, speaks the same code, we do the same curriculum. When we go to big events, I will corner athletes I've never met, and we can speak the same code. One of my students got to go to state, and I couldn't go, and is Caleb Ebel, and he was cornered by my friend Steve Jackson, who did go to state. He brought a whole team. And I called Steve, hey, would you mind cornering my guy? He's doing sport MMA, and he's the only guy from this school. He goes, I'll corner him. I'll treat him like he's my own. And Steve called me right afterwards. He goes, dude, that was so easy. It was like playing a video game. He spoke the exact same language I spoke. And I've cornered people I don't know before. It's tough because I might call it a jab. You call it a front punch. We're not speaking the same language. But since we have this same language, it allowed our coaches to interact with other people's students so much better. And without me being able to go there, Coach Caleb got first in continuous kickboxing and MMA. And he was cornered by a guy he's only met once, that he's never trained with, which I thought was so cool.
That is cool. So you're on the same jargon. I remember having a kickboxing fight, and thankfully for me, I could really hear my fighter's corner coaching. It was like, okay, well, thanks for warning me. He'd be like, throw the spinning back fist. I'm like, oh, shit, I better put my right hand up, So you know what they know, but if you can speak in some code. My boxing coach would have me always just get to a place where I could look at him. He wouldn't say a word, but he had certain symbols. If he did this, it meant maybe weave and throw the left hook. He had certain symbols that made it easy too. But of course, you got to be able to look at him because he didn't speak it. But yeah, cool, man. And you're still competing. You got a big match coming up, don't you?
Yes, sir. I won the contract with the PKA, so I was kind of waiting on them. And they're trying to bring back the old school kickboxing that was going on when we were kids, like that.
Yeah, one of my students is there too. We're waiting to hear something as well.
I kind of took myself off the market for a few months, thinking I was going to turn pro and make some money fighting. They told me if I won the contract, they'd make me rich and famous. And I told them, you don't have to make me famous. Just make me rich.
Just rich.
But I'm sure promoting at that level, there's challenges that I can't even think of. So anyways, I started looking around for another tournament I wanted to go to, and I've always wanted to go to Europe. I've never been off the continent. And I was supposed to fight overseas twice, and one time was 2000, mad cow hit. And if the tournament was in Ireland, so if I went to Ireland, I had to be quarantined for 2 weeks on the way back. And of course, I was 18, and I told my parents, 2 weeks isn't that long. And they're like, you're not going to Ireland. Come on, dummy. And then I was supposed to fight in Jamaica about 4 years ago. And then a bunch of terrorists started kidnapping Americans for ransom. So the promoter canceled the tournament. So third try, I'm going to try again, fighting overseas. Hopefully nothing happens this time. And my wife is actually going to turn 40 while we're there. So it's going to be her, we're going to stay a week after the fight, and that'll be her 40th birthday party. We're going to go tour Europe, which will be cool.
That's how us martial artists do it. We turn every event, a seminar, a cop, we turn it to a vacay because we're there, right?
I got married the day after a title fight on TV. We were broke, and as soon as I got married, I was off my parents' insurance. So I was like, let's take, my wife suggested it. She was so cool. She goes, why don't you take one more fight, and then we can, the promoter will pay for our airplane tickets to Vegas, and we can get married while we were there. So I had a Photoshop cut, photoshopped off my face. Other than the one little cut, I looked pretty good. My hand was swollen. I knocked the guy out with a left hook. My hand was swollen. I remember the next day when my wife started to put the finger, the ring on, the preacher says for better or worse, it hit that knuckle. And she looked me right in the eye, she backed off, and she rammed that ring on my finger. It hurt worse than the whole fight.
Right. Good luck on the fight, man. I know you're going to do great. Yes. How's the training, and how's the training now? Again, I got about a decade on you, so I know how that feels. But for other people to stay in that kind of conditioning, because conditioning's key. You guys may be similar in fighting, and whoever's better conditioned is probably the one that's going to win. So tips and pointers on the training that you're doing.
One of the big ones, man, I didn't do this when I was younger. You got to eat right. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir with you. It's not how hard you work out. It's what are you doing the other 22 hours of the day. I used to not eat it right. I would literally go to CC's and I would just burn 1,000 calories in the next workout. I could get away with that when I was 18, 19, 20, 22. There's no way I can make weight classes if I'm not watching what I'm eating now. So diet's huge. And then getting enough sleep. When I had my daughter, I had a title fight lined up. I was going to defend my IKF kickboxing belt, and everything was going great. I'm training like a mad person, which, being a Troy Dorsey black belt is the only way we know how to train. We kind of known as cardio machine. So I wanted to represent. I was getting sparring in like 3 days a week, 20, 24 rounds each time. And I popped a tendon in my bicep. My arm just almost dead, just flops to the ground. And lo and behold, I found out I was sleeping like 2-3 hours a day. And that is just terrible for your recovery. Now, as new dad, probably wasn't the best time to take a title fight. So I had to pull out anyways with the injury. But once I started sleeping more, it was amazing how much better I started feeling. So I know they say 7 or 8 hours. I heard LeBron James does 10 to 12 when he's in season, peak season. So even if I can't be asleep for that much, when I'm in crazy training camp mode, which I am right now, I will make sure I'm either in bed or on the couch sideways, no less than 9-10 hours a day, which is kind of hard for me as I'm kind of active and want to bounce around. When I make myself do that, I feel so much better. So I'd really say the secret's diet and sleep, because I think most athletes know how to exercise. It's the other two ingredients that I was missing. And then for me, you got to stay hungry. So like, I almost never drive to work. I will either jog to work or ride my bike to work every day, which it used to kind of drive my wife nuts because the neighbors would call and ask if like, hey, I saw Ty walking to work. Is the gym doing okay? Do you guys need some money? You know, and I was just, nope. Because once I get to the gym, even if I get there early with the goal to work out, there's a walk-in or the phone. It's so easy to get distracted. So for me, it's about an hour-long walk or a 30-minute jog. That gives me 30 minutes to an hour to myself to be 100% focused on me. I don't need to worry about cleaning up or mopping or answering the phone or handling walk-ins. It gives me an hour. It's almost like meditation to really focus on me. And when I started getting my road work in every single day, because I'm literally just don't drive my truck to work anymore. So every day I get 3 miles. That really helped center me mentally. And then it's helped me with my gas tank, not so much while I'm fighting, but in between rounds.
Yeah, that's good, man. It's active meditation, right? But it's also some you time. And yeah, you're right, bro. We all know we need to exercise, but sometimes we forget the diet and the sleep. But it's getting a little more popular. I heard the same thing about LeBron and these guys, where it was us looking up to people that survived on 3 hours of sleep. You know, like as if that was a good thing, and we were lazy if we slept 7 or 8.
You know,
that's what I grew up thinking. Like Sensei Walters, I don't know when that guy sleeps. You know, he ran a kickboxing gym when I was there and was a full-time cop and would do security gigs on the side. Like he was working 120 hours a week with a family. And he would teach a 5 a.m. kickboxing class, then go work a 9 to 5, then teach in the evening. I think the guy must have been sleeping 4 hours a day. So I thought that's what you had to do to be successful. And that worked for him, but I don't think that's the formula for most of us.
Right. It's admirable, but we can't all be daring. We can't all be David Goggins, you know. Crazy stuff. Well, what else do you have to say, man? Anything else going on? And, you know, where can we find you and things that you're doing?
If you want to follow us, we do the Troy Dorsey Kickboxing organization on Facebook. And then there's one of our consulting groups is Six Figure Kickboxing with Troy Dorsey.
Nice.
And we just give some free advice. And then if you're interested, we'll invite you to one of our online camps. We started doing, I have nothing to do with these because my friend, Mr. Poole, is so good at this. He does once a month, he'll do a free business training. It's a week-long camp, kind of like our face-to-face ones we do in person, but he does them all on Zoom. And when he started telling me about these, like, these aren't going to work. People aren't going to show up. But every single month, like clockwork, we'll get 10 to 30 different martial arts owners showing up for these free camps. And 2, 3, 4 of them will sign up for the Troy Dorsey Kickboxing organization at the end. And he's teaching us how to do online marketing, how to do face-to-face marketing, how to do sales. He'll bring me and Mr. Dorsey in one day and we'll teach how to hold mitts or how to teach more exciting classes, how to work on your retention on the mat. And then we flip them to our face-to-face. And then we have our next face-to-face meetings actually at my gym in Amarillo. And we do about a day and a half of just owners. It's a crash course on how to be a better coach, how to be a better business owner. And then we do half a day open to a public, and we call this a champ camp. And usually we try to bring in 4 or 5 different instructors. And you actually came to one many, many years ago, and you're one of our guest instructors. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'll teach a class on kicks. Troy will teach a class on boxing. We'll bring somebody else to teach a class on MMA takedowns. And then at the end, we let all the students spar. And then those that want to go light, we'll go like 20%. No one's getting hurt. And we'll have 100 people on our mat. I have a 13,000 square foot facility, so we can put a bunch of students in there. I think we had 120 athletes at the last one. And then we have a ring in the cage we'll put referees in there, and guys that want to go harder, we'll let them do smokers, which are kind of like a fake match with no judges. And we'll stop it before anybody gets hurt. But we do open mat, super light, fun and friendly. In the ring or cage is just one step beneath competition. So I love these because they're for everybody. I'll have people that have never sparred that come to a champ camp. They get to take a 4-hour seminar with 4 different instructors. Then they get to spar with people from cities they've never met before. And then the ones that are good and better, if they want to, they can get in the ring and go all but a full contact. So it's kind of it's finding that balance in between just training and tournaments. If you focus on the tournaments, you know, it's like 4% of the population. However, if you focus on the masses, all the people that like to compete don't come. So by having the harder fights in the ring and the softer fights in the open, we kind of found that sweet spot where we can attract everybody. So our next champ camp is towards the end of May at my school, and that's open to the public. And if you're interested in the business training, you can come to that. That'll be May 18th and 19th at my school.
So you're appealing to the masses because different people want different experiences, and that's good stuff, man. Yeah, we did a lot of that with Premier early on. So it makes a difference to be able to cross-train. Sometimes martial arts, especially in your own town, it's hard to get any of that because the rival competition to get any cross-training. But there's strength in numbers, man, and we could really help one another. And why not share information?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Ty, man, I appreciate the time. I've been wanting to get you on, and I think this will be a great interview with some benefits for the listeners. If there's anything else you'd like to say, leave us with any words of wisdom.
I would just say, man, whatever it is, get a coach. And the cool thing with martial arts, you'd be shocked how cheaply you can get some of these coaches. Like if I was a basketball player and I wanted to get a private lesson from Michael Jordan, that's not happening. I can't tell you how many world champions I bought private lessons from, and it's very affordable. I've flown in Bill Wallace to my studio. I've trained with James McSweeney several times face-to-face. I've trained with Alistair Overeem. It's cheaper and easier than you think it is compared to other sports. Mm-hmm. Now, I do think all these athletes should be way, way more rich and famous than they are, but that's a different conversation.
Right.
But it is so much easier to train with your heroes. And I've always heard, don't meet your heroes. And I think that's true in so many realms. It's not true in martial arts. Every time I've met one of my martial arts heroes, if anything, they leveled up. When I got to train with Randy Couture, I thought he was even cooler after I met him. When I got to train with Raymond Daniels, I thought he was a freak athlete. I didn't realize how smart he was. He's both. And it's so much easier to meet your heroes in this industry than just about any industry. So if there's someone you want to train with, reach out to them. You might be shocked how easy it is to get a chance to train with some of these martial arts celebrities.
It'll take some time, money, effort, but I mean, dude, do it, right? Because it is available, and the return on that investment. So why are you going to look back and could have, should have, and regret what you didn't do, right?
You know, I got to train with Wonder Boy about a year or two ago.
I saw that. That's awesome.
Oh, that was so cool. The only reason I wanted to meet Wonder Boy and train with him for kickboxing. But the biggest takeaway I got from that trip was actually hanging out with his dad. His dad, Ray, was so cool. And he kind of took me under his wing at one point. He goes, why don't you come to the back office? Let's have a conversation. And getting to train with all the coaches and getting to train with Wonder Boy was so cool. But I'll be honest, that 1 hour with Mr. T really helped give me some focus and perspective. He has just a beautiful school, 897 students. Yeah. And he asked me, he goes, how many students do you have, Mr. Garrett? And I kind of puffed my chest up because I knew my school's it's good for a tiny pond. I was like, well, I have about 300 students. And I kind of thought it was like when a little kid flexes his muscles for his dad and the dad's like, oh, those are big. I thought it was going to be one of those moments. And he goes, well, shame on you. And that kind of hurt. And I'm thinking, I live in a really nice house. I have a paid off house, a paid off car. I don't really need any more money. I'm comfortable. He goes, it's not about the money, Ty. He goes, America is going downhill. Do you think Americans are weaker and lazier and have less courtesy and respect than they did when you were a boy? And I go, well, yes, sir. That's kind of hard to argue with. He goes, America needs more gyms like mine and yours, and we need to make more black belts. We need to make the next generation stronger, tougher mentally and physically, and we need to teach them about values that they're no longer learning. You owe it to America to double the size of your dojo. And I'll be honest, that kind of pulled on my heartstrings because I kept grinding my dojo bigger till I got comfortable. And I was like, all right, I've made it. Let me just chill out here till retirement and I'm good to go. I never thought of it. It's not just, your income and the income of your teammates, but it's your legacy outside of the business. And the reality is, I've met your black belts, they're all awesome. What if you had 3 times as many of them? Your footprint would have been 3 times bigger. Yeah. If you had 5 times as many James Cox black belts, your footprint would have been bigger. And when Mr. Thompson was talking to me like this, it made me realize, man, my legacy is not the stuff I leave my kids. My legacy is how many black belts did I make? How many lives did I change for the better? So that really fired me up about 2 years ago. We've almost doubled our school since. And that was our goal, is to go from 300 to about 500 to 600, just to have a bigger footprint, to have a bigger legacy. But I think he's right. The trajectory American society is going on right now is a little scary. I would like to see us tougher, more resilient, more able to stand on our own, not wanting the government for handouts, but to be self-made men and women. And so that really hit me, and that resonated with me. So I don't know if that story was any good for you guys, but that one pulled on my heartstrings and made me want to step up.
No, that's great. I mean, what I'm hearing is, why did you settle? Why do I settle? Why did we think that okay was okay when you could do more? Are you really doing a service helping 300? Well, how dare you? Why not help 600? You know, right? And that it's available. I mean, of course, I think martial arts should be mandatory, and I think everyone should train with me, but anyway, why not help more people? That's really what it's about. And at the end of the day, it's helping people become the best versions of themselves. They might not be the best fighter overall, maybe not the most fit, but the best version of themselves, right? That's what we do, bro. Yeah. Well, Ty, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. And let's connect soon. And you guys find Ty how you can, and follow all these other podcasts. Follow our YouTube channel, James Cox Martial Arts, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks, Ty.